Hello, everyone. Um, Thank you so much for joining today's lesson. And yes, I hope you will enjoy. My name is Izel Sitole. I'm Izel Sitole, the CAT teacher. Yes, so in today's lesson, we are looking at the text functions len and concatenate. Remember, yesterday we were busy with right, left, and the mid text functions. Today, concatenate and the len function. Okay. By the end of this lesson, I expect you to know how, you should be able to explain text functions. So these two text functions, the concatenate and the len function. Use this function to find, use these two functions to find, manipulate, and extract specific information from data. And then from then, I want you to be able to use the left, right, mid, concatenate, and the len function. So it will be 5. Right, so you know the left, right, and mid. Today you are going to learn about the concatenate and the len. At the end, you should know how to use all of them. Right. Concatenate and len functions. This one can save the time. This can save your time and effort. The concatenate allows the user to link or combine text from different cells. So this one allows you to link and combine text from different cells. For an example, let me show you. I can link the information that is in this cell and link it with the information or data that is in this cell. So I can link these two using the concatenate function. Right, so I can link them on this column. I can use the function on this column, then link this data and this data with the concatenate function. Now with the len function, len helps the user determine the length or number of characters of a text. So this one helps the user determine the length or the number of characters of a text. So you can use the len function to calculate how many letters or how many characters do you have in your cell. For an example, I can use this function right here, so that this function can help me identify or determine how many characters do I have on this cell. So this one is used to determine the number of characters that is there in a cell or that is there in a text. Right, so let's continue. The len function. So we are going to start with the len function. Len function. The len function allows the user to use or to determine the length. So it allows you to determine the length, the number of characters of a text. Okay, you can use this function to determine the number of characters. It can calculate the number of characters of a text string contained within the selected cell, like I have shown you. You've seen a cell So Len can calculate how many characters are there in that cell. Right, so to use the Len function, first you need to know what this function consists of. So it consists of the following. One, the equal sign. Obviously, you need to indicate that you are using a function, equal sign, then the name of the function is len. Then the cell that contains the text that you want to determine the length of. Okay. Let me show you. Remember with the left function, so this column is for the left function. This one, right? So you know how to use the left, right, and mid functions, and you know what these functions are for. Right, so here I have used the function left, right, mid. Now, the len function. Okay, so with the len function, you can say equals, then this will return the number of characters in a text string. Right, so len, you select the function, then you select the text, you close your bracket. So in this cell, Gauteng, the first one, cell D2. In cell D2, we have Gauteng. So Gauteng has 7 letters. Our function len is telling us that we have 7 characters on this cell. Let's calculate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 characters. Right, so if I use autofill, this will return a number. It will determine the number of characters in which cell. D5, for this one, it's D5. So in D5, we have 12 characters. We have 12. In D6, we have 12 again. In D7, let's see, D7, Pumalanga is 10 characters. Right, so can you see how this function is used? So the len function, this function is used when you want to determine the number of characters in a cell, or the number to determine the length or the number of characters of a text string that is contained within the selected cell. You select the cell, you use the function so that you can get the length or the number of characters of the text that is in that cell. Right, so this is what the len function is used for. Here is our next example. So here, this len function was used to calculate the number of characters in cell C2. Cell C2 has 14 characters. 14 characters. Okay, 14 characters. Let's calculate. A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. But if you take a closer look and count the number of characters that are visible, 14 is not the answer. A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the comma is 7. Then C is 8, A, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So now where does this 14 comes from? 14, the 14th character is for the space. So there's space between these words. So the space is also calculated as a character. So 14 letters. Let's see what the second one, 12. We have 12. Let's see any. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you don't calculate, or if you don't count, sorry, if you don't count the space, it will give you 11. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with the comma, 7, L, 8, 9, 10, 11. But if you include the space, for the space, that's 12. So 12 characters. So the space is part of the characters. So this is how this function is used, and this is how it calculates, or it determines the length. It determines the length of the text, or the number of characters that is within a cell. Okay. For an activity, open the file act text function. So I have opened the file act text function. So this is a spreadsheet. Start the function as normal. So you start the function as equals len. Add the cell containing the text you want to determine the length of. So len B2. So now you must add the cell containing the text that you want to determine the length of. And the function by closing all these two open brackets. So you need to close these two brackets, right? So I don't need to explain or talk about closing your brackets. You know, when there's one open bracket, you need to close. Okay. I have used the function already, but then I can say undo. Undo, and then start over. Let me do the activity. It said I should determine the number of characters in which cell. Let's see which cell. Add the cell containing the text you want to determine. So it did not specify. So for that, we will use B2. B2, I want to determine the length of the text that is in the cell B2, or for every text that is in this column. So B2, B3 until B11. Let's use this function equals len, where is it? Yeah, len, and then the text, you select the text. Here is the text, Amanda. So Amanda is in B2. B2, close. So Amanda is 6 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 letters. Okay. So Robert is also 6. Billy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Billy is 5, correct. So yes, this is how it works. Right, so now let's see. Okay, so now guys, we are done with the len function. Now we know how this function works. If someone asks you, what does the len function do? Then you know that this function is used when you want to determine the length of a text. Okay, so if you want to determine a length of a text that is in, for example, B2, then you will use the len function. The len function will return an answer. The answer will be the length or the number of characters in that cell that you have selected. So if B2 has Amanda, it will return number 6 because Amanda has 6 letters. So the len function determines the length of a text or the number of characters in the text. Now, let's move to the next text function, which is concatenate. Concatenate, what about concatenate function? The concatenate function allows the user to combine text data that is located in different cells into a single cell. So this one can combine text that is located in different cells into a single cell. Right, so here is an example. So in column C, like the first cell, Amanda, the first one in cell C2. Cell C2, Amanda, Keita. So concatenate was used to link this or to combine text from these different cells. So it combined the first name, Amanda, and the second name, Keita. So the concatenate function was used to combine these two. After combining these two, putting them in one cell, into a single cell. So it combines text or data from two different cells and then puts them in a single cell, into a single cell. As you can see, the function was used on C2 to combine the first name Amanda and the last name Keita. So these were combined using the concatenate function. So when you are working with data, you are working on a spreadsheet, you want to combine text. You don't have to type in, you don't have to copy, cut and paste. You just need to use the concatenate text function to combine data from different cells. Okay, so how do we use this function? An example is when looking at a spreadsheet that contains names in one cell and surnames in another. Yes, like the example on the picture. Using the concatenate function, you can combine the names and the surnames in order to display both in a single cell, right? Just like I have said, when you want to combine your surname and the names in a spreadsheet, or you want to combine something else, you don't have to cut, copy, and paste. You just need to use the concatenate function to combine this text that is placed in different cells. Right, let's see. With this function consists of the following. So the function consists of an indication that you are using a function, which is the equal sign. Then the function name, concatenate, the cell that contains the first piece of data that you want to combine, and the cell that contains the second piece of data that you want to combine. Okay. Okay, so take note that the concatenate function joins the data exactly as it is. Thus, the formula equals concatenate B2, comma, A2. This will combine the data located in these two cells without a space in between. So if you combine, or if your function, your formula, the formula that you are using is like this. If you say equals concatenate B2, comma, with no space, and then the second text that you want to combine with the text that is in B2. If you want to combine B2 and A2, but then between B2 and A2, there's only a comma, no space in between. No space in between. This function will join the data exactly as it is. So if there's no space, then the function will return a text that does not have space. So it will combine these two, but there will be no space in between. I'll show you how to create space between. Okay, let's look at the concatenate function. Okay, now this function, so on this one, on this cell, this column, on this column, concatenate, I want to combine all the first names, combine them with the last names. So I want to combine the first names and the last names. In order for me to combine these two, I need to say equals. Oh, here is my function, the name of the function. This function joins several text strings into one text string. Okay, now you need to select text one. So I wanted to have Amanda. I want the first name and the second, and the last name. So if I say equals B2, second text, which is Keita, and close my brackets, let's see. So can you see no space in between? Why? Because I created no space. Now, how to create space? If you just press your space bar, maybe you want to create space like this. Let's see if it will work. Does it work? Does it work like that? Sorry. Still, no, it doesn't. Can you see I created space by only pressing the space bar? The space, I can see space, but now if I say, I click on enter, there is no space in between. Why? Why? Okay, so to create space, this is what you need to do. For space, you need to have your quotation mark, your first quotation mark, then say space, space, another quotation mark. Because you are showing that you have space in between. So there is space between these quotation marks. Enter. Okay. Okay. All right, so for space, you need to say equals, concatenate, select the text, then a quotation mark, then space in between, space, then your semicolon again, meaning this is a text on its own, even though it's not a text, but this is on its own. This shows that you are creating space between. So the space between this. Yes, so you can see now Amanda and Keita, the first name and last name. Between these two, there's space now. So we have space between these two. Equals concatenate B2, the quotation mark, then space, and then the mark again. Put your semicolon to show that these are on their own. And then you have A2. Enter. Let's do it over. Let's do it. Let's start over. Equals coordinate. And double click on. We select text 1. If you want first name to appear first, or you want to start with the last name, then you can select the last name. So now I want Amanda to be text 1. Then Amanda, now I want space. Mark again. Okay. Then text 3. So now this is text 2. So for space is on its own. It's by text 2. As you can see, B2 is by text 1, space by text 2, and then text 3. Now comes your last name. Enter. Yes. So Amanda Keita. Let's see with the rest. Will it do the same? Yes, there's space between Joe and Joe's last name. There's space between this one's. There's space between Billy and Billy's last name. There's space. I can see spaces in between. Right, so this is how you use the concatenate function. The concatenate function. Okay. Right, so like I have said, if you want to insert a space, you will have to add another argument as follows. Equals concatenate B2, your first text, then not commas, your semicolons, then your quotations. Between your quotations, there should be space. Create space, you press the space bar, then your next quotation mark, then a semicolon, then the second text. So this stands for the space. The argument consists of 2 double quotes with a space between them to indicate that a space should be inserted between the 2 cells. So this one shows that space should be inserted between the two cells, between the 2 texts. All right. So yes, you can also add some text between the first and second piece of data by typing the text between the double the double quotes instead of the space. For example, adding a comma between the name and surname. So when you want to add a comma between the two texts, text 1 and text 2, if you want to insert a comma in between, you can use the double quotes, but then now between the double quotes, the double quotes mustn't have space. Instead, there should be a comma, or there should be a sign that you want to use. If you want to use a semicolon, then insert a semicolon. If you want to use a full stop, then you can use a full stop. But then there mustn't be space between these two. Instead, there should be a sign. Now let's see if we can insert a comma between this two texts. Now I want a comma in between. So between Amanda and Keita, between these two, I want a comma. So how to insert a comma? Let me show you how to insert a comma. Okay, so equals concatenate, then text 1. I want to combine Amanda, the first name Amanda, combine this first name with the last name. But now between these two, I want a comma. So with this function, if you want a comma, remember with the first one, we wanted space between these two words. For space, we said double quotes, we used double quotes, but between the double quotes, then we inserted space. We pressed the space bar to create space. But now we do not want space between these two, but we want a comma. So between these two, you should type your comma and then text 2, then add text 2. Now close. Amanda Keita. So there's a comma between these two, the first name and the last name. So we have added a comma between the two. Right, so let me test. I want to see something. I want to see if this will work. What if I say a comma and then space? Will it work? Yes, it works. Okay, so like you can see, this does not look presentable, or it doesn't look proper. I want a comma between the two, the first name and the last name. So I want a comma, but then I need space. Say, I need space. Amanda, comma, then space. Okay, so how to insert a space and a comma? So you use your double quotes. Between your double quotes, you insert a comma. Then after the comma, I want space. So I want space. I'm going to press the space bar once. So space bar, then enter. Yes, now I have a comma and some space between. Right, so that's how you insert your space and comma between your text. That's how I'm sure now you know how to combine text using this function. You know how to combine text, and you know also how to add space between this combined text or this linked text. And you know how to add a comma between this. If not a comma, you know how to add a sign or a symbol. Right, so let's see if I add something else but not a comma. Let me see if I add 3 full stops or just a number of full stops. Okay, you can still add any that you want between the double quotes. So if you want a full stop, you can add 1 full stop. If you want, let's see if I add something else. A question mark and space. Okay. Okay, so this is how you use the concatenate function. But for this one, I want just space between. Space Amanda Keita. All right, so I guess now you know how this function is used. Even if someone asks you to explain what the concatenate text function means, now you'll be able to explain that this function is used to combine or link text from different cells, combine them and put them into a single cell. So we have combined text that is in the cell B2. Here on H2, we have combined the text that is in B2, the cell B2, and the text that is in the cell A2. So this function is used to combine text in different cells and then combine them, put them into a single cell. Let me see, can I combine text space. And I add the city. Let's see. Oh, yes, I can. Amanda Keita and Amanda City. Amanda Keita Pretoria. So you can link more than 2 cells. You can link more than 2 cells, yes, text that is in cells. So you can link more than 2 text or 2 cells. Right, so okay. Okay, here I want to use the left function. Let me use the left function to extract data from the name Amanda. Let's see, equals left, 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 Amanda. How many characters from the word Amanda starting from the left? 2. I want 2. 2. Oops. I want 2. Now here use the right function. Right. Right. The text Amanda. So from the right hand side, I want 1, 2. I want 4. 4 characters. So I have AM, and then here I have AND. If I were to use the concatenate text function to combine the 2, it will give me Amanda. I want to combine this and this. Is it gonna work? Let's see. Will it work? Okay. So equals concatenate E4 and F14. So I have used the concatenate function to combine these two. Let's see. So I have Amanda. Right, so I hope you can now see how these functions work. Just play around. If you have time, just use this function so that you can get used to them. Just, yeah, man, play. Okay, so now with the Len function, remember this function, we said this function is used to combine not to combine, sorry. This one is used to determine the length, of a text in a cell. So for this one, if I want to find out what is the length of the text in cell H2, how long is this text? I want to find out. So Amanda Keita is 14. It has 14 characters. 14 characters, let's count. 1, A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, C, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, where does this 14 come from? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, because we have space. So space in between here, we have space. Space was pressed or space was inserted twice. So I pressed the space bar twice to create more space. Can you see the space bar? I pressed the space bar to create space. So I pressed this bar twice, 1, 2. Then 14, including the space. So space is considered as characters. So to determine the length of this text, the len function calculates how many characters are there. The space is also included. Okay, let's see if I insert or press the space bar only once to create space. Can you see now it gives me 13. Now I have 13. Yes, guys, I hope now you know how to use these functions: the left, right, mid, concatenate, and the len function. I'm sure you are now used to these functions. You can use these functions. Yes, and if you have any questions, or you are having or experiencing difficulty, you can talk to me. If you have questions, then in our next lesson, you are welcome. You can ask me the question. If you need assistance, or maybe you just want to add on what we have talked about today, you can do so. You are more than welcome. Right, so for an activity, we have done this: combine the data in the cell that has last name, combine last name with first name in the column concatenate. So we have done that. We have combined these two. So we have combined these two on the column concatenate. So we have combined the two. Yes, guys, thank you so much for joining this meeting, and I hope you have enjoyed the lesson. Now you know how to use the left, right, mid, concatenate, and the len functions that are there or that Excel provides you with.